All right, guys, I am at the ACA convention in Houston, Texas, and one of the store visits and one of the nicest stores around is Aquarium Design Group. And they've been in business for, not at this location, but about 20 years. And we're gonna go check them out. We're gonna meet Jeff, one of the owners, and of course Mike is also one of the owners. He's on the job, so we're gonna have Jeff show us around. This is probably one of the nicest stores that I've ever been to, and the aquascaping in this place is amazing. So you guys are gonna have a pretty good treat. Cool fish and even more aquascaping like I've never seen. So yeah, definitely get the fish and aquarium nerds and aquascaping nerds and plant and saltwater. So let's check it out. So we're gonna meet Jeff. So as you walk in, you say hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
Welcome to ADG. I'm Don.
Nice to meet you. Well, this is some incredible stuff you got here.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So how long has this store been here?
Stores has been here, I'd say about 8 years in this
8 years?
location. The retail's been open for 5 years.
Okay. Wow, this is a beautiful store.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go check out some stuff. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
So love the way showing all the different woods and obviously is a shrimp tank. Yeah, it has this one beautiful little tank. Little nice little reef tank. Now, as you guys know, Tanganyikan's my thing. There's a nice tricotti. Sorry. Yes. I think those are ink fins. There's tricolors, jumbos. So who's this guy? Introduce yourself.
Jeff Sensky from Aquarium Design Group in the Aquarium Design Store.
Speak up a little bit.
Yes, Jeff Sensky from the Aquarium Design Store.
All right, so tell us your philosophy. Obviously, you guys like to...
Yeah.
Aquascape is your thing.
Yes, we believe very firmly in inspirational kind of environment. We want to show people what's possible, kind of more what an aquarium can be, and experience that first. It's sort of an inside-out approach. I find that people come in and they fall in love with aquascaping first, and
So, like,
then they want to know how do I do this?
Got it. So you're not selling a tire, you're selling a beautiful car.
You got it. Something like that, sure. I like to think of us as the foremost aquarium software provider.
Software provider, I like
To me, the
that.
software of the aquarium is the aquascape, the scene inside the box. That nostalgic underwater scene is that's where we put our attention,
Okay.
and then the rest of it sort of follows that. No, I've always said nobody really wants a glass box of water with a light and a pump on it. They want an
Yeah.
aquarium, and they need those things to
Okay.
have an aquarium.
So that's your
we're-
philosophy, is go after the aesthetics, you make a connection.
That's right.
Whatever that peaceful space in their brain.
Yes.
Kind of like an ocean view beach house.
Sure. And at the same
in your
time,
living room.
I think to provide an environment that's sort of calming and that can be enjoyed in the same way one might enjoy an art gallery or
Oh, okay.
an art installation, something like that. Same sort of vibe we have when we're just experiencing something creative.
Got it.
And we're kind of trying to bring the aquarium into that dimension as well.
So I see these little tanks. Why don't you give us a little bit of, or maybe a different tank?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, it could be anything, really. It's just a case of trying to show some things that are plausible in a small tank, but, you know, and it's something with the sandstones and a piece of wood sticking up like that is not a... this is a formula. We've all seen it. I'm not claiming to have invented something new with that.
Sure.
But for many people that are not aquarium hobbyists today, that is new. That is a new, fresh expression of what can be inside an aquarium. So I look at things like that, sort of like a great piece of art or a great pop song. So you may be into some other niche of music,
Right.
but then there's those things that just seem to resonate with everybody, right?
Right.
And because there's something familiar there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's layout styles that have become like this great piece of expression that just works.
Right.
It works as a formula, just like a great pop song is the same fundamental structure,
Right.
and we still love it, right?
Yeah.
So-
Same thing, basically in different.
Right. That said, there is a time for something new and to be inventive and to expand the expression.
Okay.
And I
So-
like to feel like we do that too.
So this tank obviously is as simple as it gets here.
It is because this, and I mean this somewhat jokingly and somewhat serious,
Okay.
this we could call a biotope for a hybridized or domesticated discus, because when I look at where this fish comes from, it's a hatchery tank. They've grown to this size, this color, this vigor, in basically a bare bottom tank. That's where they come from. That's all they know. In other words, this domestic discus, this is no more a wild discus. I'm stretching it a little bit here. but bear with me.
right. No,
This
I
is no
follow
more
you.
a wild discus than your chihuahua is a wolf. Okay?
Got it.
Dogs are derivative of this wild version of a dog, a wolf, a fox, something like that. But, you know, your Shih Tzu would not know what to do if you let it out in the woods. And I find that these fish are simply more healthy. They're well. They're well in an environment that's very, very clean, where they can be fed very heavily, and then the food is easily removed with whatever they didn't eat, this kind of thing. And they're just right at home. They show their best colors. They become very personable, all the rest of it. I take this fish, I put it in an aquarium with a piece of driftwood, and this fish has no idea what's going on with this driftwood. I mean, this is a very far removed situation at this level of hybridization, okay? And so this is simply how the fish
Putting the
was
chihuahua
raised.
in the forest.
Exactly. If you take your French bulldog and let them go out on the prairie, they're not really going to know what to do, and they're probably not going to even, survive that long.
Right.
I would never take a wild-caught discus and keep it like this, ever, never in a million years. I mean, there's just a world of difference. So, what I'm sort of trying to show is perhaps a more elegant expression of a hatchery tank.
Got it. Yeah, something.
So I'm going to show a discus collection
Right.
of hybridized, tank-raised, highly specific strains of discus. This to me just made sense.
Okay.
And
Then we go to something like these tanks over here.
Yep.
So They're
This
both
is,
community tanks.
Yeah, definitely very firmly in the hardscape category.
So what size is that tank?
That takes, yeah, it's about 250.
250 gallons.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's, now here, I do tend to stick. It's just a tendency. It's not something I'm
Trying to get
adamant
the
about,
glare
but
away. Yeah.
all the fish are, let's just say, generally Southeast Asian.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one behind you there is all West Africa, for example. So there's loosely a theme. I'm not trying to recreate a biotope,
Okay.
but there's a nod to their natural environment or to, in terms of a group of fish. Again, I wouldn't put a South American fish
Right.
in this
It's a
aquarium.
biotope.
So there's a loose theme that goes on there.
Got it.
Some of that is a fish keeping exercise for us because we love the fish, we appreciate the rare fish, all of this sort of thing. But we also want to make a beautiful aquarium. Like we
Right.
want the totality of the scene to be something wonderful that you can know nothing about rare West African, and Congo
Yeah.
tetras, and still totally get it. Still have an experience. Sort of the philosophy there.
So how long has this tank been set up? So you hear a lot of that where
Yeah.
maintenance becomes always time,
Yeah.
right? So this tank,
We're probably
obviously,
a few. I tend to lose track of that stuff. It's years. It's been a few
oh, years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's one of the beautiful aspects of the hardscape only style is that that is a static scene in there as far as the rock and driftwood. So this is just a water change exercise, and we have a technique we use for water changes on big aquariums like this. We offer that same equipment and system to our customers.
Okay.
And it's just so easy. I mean, you're really just moving water and keeping a filter clean.
Right.
So it has really, I don't even like to talk about maintenance much because it's really so easy in this type of layout. Like the hardscape only style, one can really put their attention on kind of getting the composition right. Because the maintenance is really, it's classic aquarium maintenance. We're just
Right.
changing water, keeping the fish well.
It's beautiful.
Sort of the obvious things. Very
Yeah.
accessible to anybody.
Okay.
There's
And how
nothing
big is this
complex
tank?
about a system.
400?
It's really just it's getting the composition sort of right is the big part of that. So
that's about a 350, 400?
yeah, right around there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I saw this big tank right in the middle. I'm a Tanganyikan nut, so
Yeah.
very nice setup. I think last time I was here it was filled with discus, wild discus.
Yes, it's been many things, but it has been a thing you can lay out for at least a few years now. And
Okay.
we haven't touched this group in years. It's been a very long time. Wow. And I love it because of the height. This was always a tricky tank to aquascape well. If you didn't use drift, really big pieces of wood, it was sort of tricky to fill the scene. So we thought, well, if we're using some of these deeper water fish and fish
Yeah.
that are really happy to occupy all of this open space here, being viewed from the three sides and so big in the middle of the space, just a cool effect, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I love about this group is very minimal aggression. Like there are no tattered fins. Everybody, and there's some
Yeah,
normal
always gonna have-
jostling,
yeah,
right? But
males can be-
mostly it's a very it's one of those groups everybody kind of has their place and it's just worked. It's really nice.
They're three-sided.
Turns a lot of people on to. You can see the pair there. You can see those.
Which ones?
This guy's really doing his dance over here today.
Oh yeah, the tricotti. Yeah,
yeah.
I saw him.
He's getting real. There with the female. Getting
He's
real
a happy
excited.
fish.
Oh
Look
yeah,
at
look at
that.
that. Very cool. This aquarium's been very. It's been awesome for kind of turning people on to Tanganyikan fish. And,
Yeah.
There's an Eric notice in there.
whole categories of fish they didn't even know existed.
That is
It's
awesome.
really putting on a show for everybody from the ACA today. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Yeah.
Is it a type of Paracyclochromis, maybe? I don't. Yeah.
That's a trichoty. If that's what you're looking at in the back there.
Yeah.
Yep, Ventachromis trichoty.
But look at these dudes.
He's the main guy. There's one other male that's real close to him, and they've switched back and forth over the years to kind of who's the dominant guy. But
I know what they are.
he's had a pretty good
there's
run.
Yeah, he's awesome.
There's one. Oh no, there's a couple like
There's a lot of awesome. What else? Let's go. Keep walking.
Whatever you think, man.
All right, let's go to
Planting
your.
tanks over there. Sure.
Let's start with the saltwater here.
Well, so yeah, this is an older reef tank. You know, reef tanks. You know, you get into a certain number of years, and there are certain aspects of them that they all start to kind of show their age.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one's been through a lot of changes. You know, it's so funny too on the reef side to see the tech. The tech is always changing, right?
Yes.
So this was so cool back in 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
And now, you know, if we were to do this over, which is we actually are planning to do a whole new system here really soon. A lot of new things we would do with it, things we would do slightly differently, but it's been a great tank, and it's been really inspiring to a lot of people. And, you know, to a hardcore reefer, I'm sure they can pick it apart.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for you get into the multiple years, you know, and just to keep a tank well.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
Years and years is very rewarding.
You can tell these fish have been in there.
The fish, we have not added the fish to this tank in probably 3 or 4 years.
Corals.
We've gotten that thing where it's like a really solid group and you kind of don't mess with it.
Yeah, the balance is there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The minute you introduce a new fish, you're just opening up all those compatibility, problems, or bringing in a disease or whatever. So, not a sick fish, or everybody's been in here really for years now. It's one of those groups.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks.
So this is how big? Just so
Man,
I always
you
get
can't
asked
tell by
that.
now I'm the worst at, I just don't ever really memorize these things as far as,
Okay.
I'm just terrible. It's like a mental block.
All right,
Just,
I'm gonna
I would say
say
it's as big as it is. I don't know,
500 gallons.
It's
All
that you probably, I think it's about 450 or something.
Okay.
So you're close.
Let's check these out now.
Yeah. A little bit newer layout there, kind of just starting to kind of fill in. Here we're just trying to show something, very, very simple. It's using all tissue cultured plants.
Okay.
Something that would be very accessible for a retail customer. It's kind of a little philosophy too is there's a little more emphasis on the hard stuff. And in this way, you might say there's less pressure to have it full of plants.
Right.
Because the rock is rather easy to grow, right?
Right, yeah.
And for people just becoming familiar with aquascaping and live plants, I find if you can help them make a cool scene, it's doing something, it's playing a role without, let's just say, the pressures of growing a lot of different species, or I got this plant from this source, and I've got some tissue culture, and my friend gave me some cuttings, and it's all these different elements trying to come together. Here we can make something that's a much more coherent scene there's more of a program to it, you might say.
Right, and the fish are pretty unique in there too.
Yeah, that's a drake fin barb. So cool, they're just so unique to me as barbs go.
Absolutely.
You don't see them a whole lot. They're a fish, actually, I'll see them on lists all the time, and I just don't think they're a big seller.
Nobody knows what they are.
It's,
'cause they've never been.
right. And so, I don't know, I think they're really cool. They're really very docile, yet they'll eat out of your hand. They'll very gently come and eat from your hands, or, I don't know, one of my favorite barbs,
So
hands down.
I have an open top tank just like this.
Yeah.
And I end up with fish on the floor every so often.
Every so often, it does happen. I mean, we were all inspired, obviously, by Amano,
Yeah.
who had to this day, the ADA gallery is full. I think there's 50, 60 aquariums in there, all open tops. If fish jumping out of an open top was such a huge problem, it wouldn't be done. I mean, at some
Right.
point, it just would be. It wouldn't make sense.
Right.
So, does it occasionally happen? Yes. Are there fish that you just completely avoid? Would I put a hatchet fish in an open top tank? Never.
Right.
They're going to jump.
Or marijuana.
A lot of I love lamp eyes. Lamp eyes are big jumpers. We don't use them in open tops for that reason. So
this is a new setup?
brand new, one week old today actually.
1 week.
Just
Wow.
1 week. We're going back to old school T5s on this one. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to put it out there. I have no clue why we've abandoned T5 fluorescents, because they're incredible.
Yeah, the
and I'm
color's
telling you, from
incredible.
being in a gallery full of planet tanks and doing this all day, aquascaping all day, every day for 20 years, the rate of growth, the color, and just the essence that I've seen in 1 week. This is no dig on anybody's product or any such thing. I'm here to make a claim that there's still a place for fluorescent bulbs in aquascaping.
Right.
There's something of a very reliable nature when you're using the T5s. It's
So
like,
this
it's
is
going
LED.
to grow. Yes.
So you can get a look. This is obviously LED, and this is T5s.
Yeah.
So the colors, the reds, and
The reds you
T5.
get can't even. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, what a
This
pop.
is what they call a long leaf Willichai, Rotella Willichai, or Walichi, however you want to say it. And it came in. Again, it's been in there 1 week. I wish I had some of the plants as it came out of the, from the nursery in the shipment, because it was just this kind of pale yellowish thing. I mean, just in no time, the color up. I was told this was Myrophilium aquatica, but here it is turning into this kind of big red color. That one I added on Tuesday, 3 days ago, and it was completely green. And there's just, I'm telling you, from a higher level aquascaping standpoint, we need to put a little bit of attention back on the T5
Got
fluorescent.
it. So this is another LED over here.
Yes,
So majority
which
of
they
your
work.
tanks-
I'm not saying they don't work.
Right.
I'm saying that there's still a place. Because when I work with the T5s, you can see red plants, stem plants, high energy plants.
Right.
Kind of the lack of controllability is its own limiting factor.
Right.
Whereas with most LEDs, there's some capacity to easily dim it. So here with the more shade plants, lower light plants, we're dimming the light. This light at full power is a little much for these your shade plants, your epiphytes, this kind of thing. So,
So all your
when I make a statement about a T5, is not saying that's all there should be. I'm just saying that
It's a palette.
it's a
Yeah.
palette. Good. That's a perfect term.
Yeah. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
That's
and
right.
What colors you use.
That's right.
So I see CO2 in all tanks that are planted.
Oh, I mean, I just say, why
an
not
aesthetic.
one?
What it needs.
It's two. It's just part of the formula. Or if I'm going to build a program, I'm going to reference the system or the approach with the most success. And my program is rooted in Amano and Amano's philosophy, and Amano used CO2. So if he used it, that's what I'm going to use. Doesn't mean
Successful.
you have to
I
use
reinvent
it.
it. Yeah.
What I find is when you remove any one element like that, and you're changing in a way that it becomes a little unpredictable.
Okay.
And so what your friend did in a non-CO2 planet tank is less repeatable. This is harder to scale, and it
Right.
becomes more of a individual, almost a individual project.
Right.
And I'm trying to do something where anybody can plug in and have the system in which they can create
And
something.
that's what you're creating here. is a
I'd rather
system.
create something than run an experiment, you might say.
Got it.
Yeah.
So a traditional store, I would see a bunch of tanks with fish.
Yeah.
I'm looking around your store, and
That is
I
all
s-
around the corner. I mean, we have a holding system in a more traditional environment, but what I've tried to create here is an inspiration space, a gallery, something also, quite frankly, something people hopefully leave remembering, or
Yeah,
it's
it's
made an
definitely an
impression. And then two, it gives us a place to show a lot of different possibilities.
Got it.
And we can show the use of a particular wood. We can show the use of a certain kind of stones. We can show hardscapes and cichlids and saltwater and planted tanks and, you know, kind of the whole world.
So can we go that way and see what's back there? Or is that
We can, sure. It's not
I'll follow
there's
you.
not much to see back there, but
All
you
right.
know, I'm
Hey.
happy to explain it.
I always want to see behind the curtain.
Yeah. So this is an area that's still a bit of a work in progress where I'm really trying to figure out a better way to stock aquatic plants, because the traditional way it's been done, I've been doing it a long time, and I think this is a big problem for shops everywhere trying to do more with aquascaping and live aquatic plants. Most of the plants are grown immersed or out of the water in a nursery environment. A store is getting them in and they're putting them in an aquarium, in a wet
Right.
system, and the plant's beginning a conversion. It's melting, it's converting to submerged, whatever it may be.
Okay.
All of these things are creating a tank with a lot of maintenance. This holding tank is now another thing on the staff to-do list, right?
Right.
And the plants are generally just not looking that great as they convert from immersed to submersed. And the customers coming in, unless the plants just came in, it doesn't look great. It's not inspiring
Right.
to them. They don't
Right.
want to buy it. So we're trying to find efficient ways of doing a more of a immersed kind of system to keep the plants as they came in.
So
This is all brand new for us.
okay, so when you get a plant in, and most people take this plant, put it in their aquarium,
Yeah.
and they change, like you just
True,
mentioned.
yes.
So that process, how long does that take? It's different for every plant, but in general, you can say, hey,
Well, it's part of the tricky
I got
part.
that plant.
Yeah, it's part of the tricky part of aquascaping.
I was
is
just
that-
going to say, it's,
okay, so
your
to
whole
say how
environment
long
changes,
it takes, right?
So
Even that varies on, are we working with a tissue, the same plant? Are we working with HC from a tissue culture cup or a pot? And even the pot from a different grower. Did it come from an Asian nursery? Did it come from Europe? I find differences in the way it looks, the whole trajectory of how the plant goes can be slightly different even depending on source. So
Got
a
it.
lot of this makes it challenging in the U.S. market still, where we don't have multiple big, well-established nurseries. We have one, and they're fine, but they're predominantly growing plants. They're not really producing plants for aquascaping. And there's a
Got it.
difference. There's a difference between a fish tank with plants in it, which is fine and beautiful, and an aquascaped tank. Just
so
a
this
philosophical
tank-
difference.
So this tank out here is aquascaped?
I mean,
or is that plants
if
in
we're
the
just
aquarium?
trying to kind of orient ourselves to a philosophy
Yeah.
or you know, these are just words, they're not absolutes. I'm just saying, when I aquascape, I've laid out the scene kind of in one shot. And so the way I'm going to use plants, the quality that I need, the consistency that I need, is rather different than I've started an aquarium, I've got some fish and some rocks in there, and I want to
Yeah.
add some plants. That's
Got
a
it.
different trajectory, it's a different philosophy.
This one you just set up a week ago.
Yes.
Give me a time frame that costs.
I'm
or
going to say,
your-
you know, we'll use the point at which I say, let's get a photograph of it.
Okay.
And that's probably, at the rate of growth with the T5, I'm going to say we're probably at about 6 months. There's multiple rounds of trimming and grooming.
Got it.
Some things are going to, you know, this was some hair grass from tissue culture cups that's melting. Some of it's growing, some of it's dying.
I see that. Okay.
All pretty normal, run-of-the-mill stuff for us. That doesn't shock me.
So
A little
how
bit of
long
a
did it
problem
take
if you're
for
new to
setup?
if you're new to this and that happens, that can be alarming. But
So how long does it take for you to put together aquascape?
yeah, so I do the hardscape in one step. Like I almost never hardscape and plant the same day. So
Okay.
you know, it's a couple hours of hardscape and then probably a few hours of planting. There's more plants tend to require more prep. Once
Got
you've
it.
prepped, the planting part generally goes pretty quick. Yeah.
So what else can we see? You said there's something back here?
We get back here in just kind of your traditional retail holding system kind of environment where we sell tropical fish. Or
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I think it's well done, but I think, you know, there's a lot of great shops out there with great holding systems.
Sure.
Well,
you got a
pretty
great
selfish,
palette
need a
here.
way to do it. Now, this is something that
Got to get this in there to say.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah, absolutely love. It's daily part of the daily routine here is the Cobalt Foods. Absolutely, big part of the program.
So, like, I don't normally see this in stores.
Right,
so
because this is the we can just put it like this. It's not a precise analogy, but this is like the software of the aquarium, right? Like, this is how you make a cool aquarium. And so why an aquarium store wouldn't have the materials we need to make a cool aquarium has always been a mystery to me as an aquarium store customer. I'm not complaining or saying anyone's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying, if you want people to make a cool aquarium, in this day and age, the material we use and put inside in there, the rock, the driftwood, the substrates, that's it. Like, that's the stuff that we do it with.
That's great.
So vital for us to have a huge selection of these things. You got the mock-up box here. This is
pretty interesting.
It's kind of a first generation one
Can
for
you
us.
grab a couple rocks and just show us real quick?
Yeah,
And
sure.
just, this is interesting. I've not seen this in too many stores.
Yeah, it's growing. It's kind of catching on. It's a little more popular in Europe. But we've kind of made these slats too that conform to a lot of the standard aquarium dimensions. So you can even kind of mark off the dimensions of your tank to have a little bit of a footprint in a box here.
Okay.
And this came from my obviously having the luxury of being able to do tanks here with access to all this great materials.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I'm doing an aquascape tank with stones, there might be 50 or 100 stones in and out of that tank to get a coherent group, right?
Right.
But what we're asking a typical aquarium store customer to do is go, there's a box with a few shards and some square rubble in there, and they're looking, and they're going to go weigh how much does it weigh, and how much is it? In other words, you don't aquascape by the pound, number one. Number two, you're trying to form a group. That may take trying 10, 20, 30 rocks to form that group.
Okay.
So I'm just looking for ways to give people access to those kinds of resources and that kind of process.
Got it.
Because just to go, yeah, I think that'll work, and then you get it home and it doesn't work, or okay, that was cool. Now I need 5 more rocks to complete this scene.
Got it.
It's
Take a picture of it and go home.
it's a big confidence builder for someone to have been able to spend. Some people they're here for 2 or 3 hours mocking up a hardscape. When they're finished, they take the phone out of the pocket. They got a high definition camera in their pocket.
Right.
They're taking picture, video clip, and they may not put it together exactly like that when they get back home, but they have a reference point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a great confidence
and each
knowing
piece will fit.
they've got
Right?
the dimensions
Yeah.
right. They formed a group, and a lot of people too. Hey, come, could you help me out with this, or what do you think? And we'll kind of work together.
Sure,
and,
sure.
It's part of the creative dimension of aquarium keeping.
This is the fun part.
This is not just fish keeping.
Right.
This is a little broader experience. And so, yeah, that's just kind of the idea. There's some changes I would make to this on the next version, but for most people, it's at least a place to play a little bit and
Okay.
to determine if something's going
That's
to work
great.
for
Thank
them.
you for showing that.
That's the
You
idea.
got some, again, great little dry displays without tanks, which you do a nice job with. Wood is obviously one big part of it.
These little bonsai trees and stuff are cool. I mean, everybody they're finding their way into the market. Everybody's got them.
Yeah, we have
They're
them,
neat.
believe it or not,
Yeah.
so-
So they're
Yeah.
they're well done for what they are.
Yeah, and you got fish that are actually easy to scape with because they're not 1-inch fish. I mean, I'm looking at these angels. That's a good sized fish.
Though we do a lot even with the nano fish and the little different little tiny rasboras and all this kind. Oh yeah, cobalt heater across the board.
Nice, thank you.
Amazing. That I've just been in love with that low profile design since the first time I saw it.
Nice.
That is my go-to. No blowing smoke. That's my go-to heater. Or even in an aquascape setting where I need a heater, that low profile, I can just make that thing all but disappear. And there's not a bunch of numbers and things all over it. It's just it's really out of the way.
Good.
It does its job.
So all this, how'd you get into fish? That's always the question you hear is like, I know I I had goldfish and neons together when I was 6 years old.
Yeah, for me it was my dad is he's now retired, but he's a veterinarian. When he's in veterinary school, well, even earlier than that, my grandfather kept aquariums. My dad was a big time hobbyist. He was in veterinary school. He owned a tropical fish store, and so I just grew up. I grew up thinking everybody had 10 aquariums in their house. I just thought it was the most normal thing.
Right.
And
no, not
part of
normal.
our chores and all this kind of stuff was like feeding the fish or doing water
Sure.
changes, and I thought it was really normal. I mean, I'd go to a friend, what, you don't have an aquarium? I mean, it was, I just thought it was the most normal thing. So,
Right. So, how old were you then?
I mean, this was my earliest days.
Oh, so this is like...
My brother Mike, which so
Yeah,
many people
Mike,
know,
yeah, of
is
course.
he's 5 years older. So he was when I was born, he was already breeding epistogrammas and doing all kinds. At 5 years old, the guy was already, dare I say, aquascaping. I mean, he just always had a touch
We
with
call
like
them fish geeks.
yes, major
He's
fish
very-
geek,
yeah.
major fish geek, even at a
Absolutely.
very early age.
So
I just grew up around it.
Yeah, so as you get evolved, and I noticed that in the evolution of everything you're doing,
Yeah.
shrimp are more coming into play now.
Oh,
I
for
see.
sure. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Every store I go to,
Yeah,
there's more and more shrimp. So I didn't see a shrimp-only tank out there.
there is one.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, I got
Must
one
have
out there.
missed it.
Yes,
Okay, we'll
yes.
have to get that one on the way out.
Sure.
So anything on here that we can talk
No,
about?
I mean,
or-
truthfully, it's a mix of kind of classic tropical fish that I think we could think of them as like the staple fish that
Okay.
fish stores have, and then we try and put some emphasis on some unusual, some rare, some wild caught, or you won't find a lot of bread and butter things that you might find at PetSmart or something like that.
Okay.
So it's a mix. A big part of our business is custom installation and service, and so there's a lot of fish that are just very well suited to our service clients that we stock
Okay.
to. So, it's a mix.
So you might get some zebras in there. Those captive bred?
These, yes.
Okay, good. We prefer captive.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever possible.
Oh, yeah. I think these days you actually can't legally wild collect them.
Yeah. Yeah, Pleco's really moved up the ladder.
There's really nice black arowana in here, too.
Oh yeah. We're just always trying to keep an eye for that.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of hobbyist stuff and then specific fish that are maybe a little more classic in the aquascape planet tank. We're a little heavier on that stuff than maybe some shops might be.
Something that doesn't dig up everything.
Right. I mean, this row is more your South American cichlids and
Okay.
larger fish, not necessarily fish we use in.
I mean, a school of this
Yeah.
would be pretty nice.
Of course.
I mean, even in this tank, they look great with a couple pieces of wood in there.
That's something we'd kind of do more in a bigger hardscape type layout.
Yeah, predators,
Yeah.
cats. Very nice. And you go all the way to saltwater, of course.
Yes.
These are neat tanks. That's, what is it, a 6 foot long?
Funny thing, these were originally plant
See it, yeah.
holding tanks,
Okay.
and we could only come so far off the wall here and fit in the 2 rows. It was part of why they were so narrow. But I've just discovered, for the most part, getting nursery-grown immersed aquatic plants and putting them in a wet system and trying to sell them, unless you sell them really fast, is just
They
not
fall
the way
apart,
to go.
yeah.
So we ended up just doing other things with
Okay.
these tanks, and we're kind of going in the way of that kind of almost hydroponic or immersed system that we were looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Let's see that shrimp tank. Anything on this side, or? Hey.
Gotta be honest, it's
Festive
live.
Factory representing you guys.
Yeah, awesome. So you
gotta
got
be honest, it's really, it's hopefully cool, but it's the aspect of what we do. It's a tropical fish store. It's interesting, but
the cardinals and
Yeah,
neons.
yeah.
And then you got your salt section. Oh no, that's also fresh, and then this side's salt.
right.
Rainbow. So what's your favorite fish to work with? I would probably say tetras.
And I got to be honest. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I truly love it all.
Really?
I'm not really a reefer, but I love doing reef tanks. Like I don't. It's kind of a joke around here for a saltwater customer that comes in and has a question about a like the name of a coral, for example, and I almost never know it. I don't know, always know what it. I don't know the name, but I know what it does. I know what it's compatible with. Which I know seems like an element of that's totally ridiculous, but I love doing it. Like I love sort of creating an aquascape in a way that goes beyond sometimes just the name of something is sort of not the most important thing to me.
Yes,
you need to understand what its needs are and the
know how
proper care.
I
but
agree.
I'm not obsessed with being an encyclopedia of every fish name.
Yes, I agree with you there.
Which can be funny sometimes when people are asking and I just flat out don't know. Yet I talk about an aquarium where I'm working with that same coral or fish in a layout, and it's fine, it's healthy, it's great. They're enjoying the layout. So it's a little bit of a thing. It's just a passion for all of this that kind of goes beyond the name of something sometimes.
So we're going to sign out, but give us a little plug. Where do you go? Check out your stuff. You got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got
the usual
YouTube.
Facebook, Instagram. If you just search Aquarium Design Group on there, and of course aquariumdesigngroup.com has been around for many years, and that's our main website. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and appreciate all your time, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. All right.